This nice winter night, spring day, well, whatever we had. I'm Carrie Beckenhauer. I'm a member of the Lasting Legacy team here at Aldersgate. And this is the beginning presentation for our lecture series this year. We're talking about a faithful approach to financial planning because things change all the time, and also stewardship is a part of what Aldersgate is about, and also many other churches share that same focus. A couple housekeeping items. Restrooms are out the double door you just came in. Down the hallway, you'll see the water fountain. You'll know you're in the right spot. Also, we happen to have emergency exits on every wall, unlikely event that we would need to use them. If you brought in your coffee cup or your glass of water when you go out after we're done, please take it with you, and there's a tub across the hall. We put our empties in there, and then we can get them in the dishwasher. Okay. Our speaker tonight is going to talk probably for 30 to 40 minutes. After that, we have question and answer, so I'll be bringing around this wireless mic, and we encourage you to use the wireless mic so people at home can hear what the question is that you're posing. So Julie's going to talk 30 to 40 minutes, and we have question and answer. And now I have some important information. Julie Klopper-Smith holds the Nebraska Life and Health and Property and Casualty Insurance licenses, as well as Fellow Life Management Institute, FLMI, and Health Insurance Associate, HIA designations. She has been selling and servicing insurance with Nicole Simon's State Farm Agency since 2010, helping Lincoln area folks with their auto, home, liability, life, health, disability, pet medical, and business insurance needs, as well as financial service needs. Julie earned her degree in mathematics from Nebraska Wesleyan, is a former secondary math and computer sciences teacher. What a woman. She worked for the Principal Financial Group in Grand Island. That's before she and Dan came to Lincoln. She has co-authored textbooks about health insurance operations for the Health Insurance Association of America, HIAA, now known as America's Health Insurance Plans, AHIP. Julie especially enjoys helping customers understand how to protect what they value in order to help them manage the risks of everyday life, recover from the unexpected, well, that never happens, and realize their dreams. Now, that's important. In her spare time, Julie is director of music at Aldersgate United Methodist Church, enjoys theater, reading, stand-up comedy, she likes to watch it, not perform it, and travel. She and her husband Dan have 3 grown sons and a brand new daughter-in-law. So please join me in welcoming Julie Klopper-Smith.
Thank you, Carrie. It feels a little bit like being at one's funeral. Hearing something like that. So, well, it's so nice to see all of you here this evening. You saw the topic, property and casualty insurance, and you went, wow, that sounds so exciting. Got to get there for that, right? That was you, Matt, right? Yeah. That's what you heard. I knew it. And just full disclaimer, I want to recognize my boss is here tonight. Nicole Simon, raise your hand. It's her agency, the State Farm that I work at and have for over 15 years. So it's a great job. Love it. So anyway, yes, I'm Julie Klopper-Smith, and I'm just really thankful that anybody wanted to hear about insurance tonight, because I'm a big insurance geek. And I could talk for hours, but apparently I have to keep it to 30 to 40 minutes. So I'll try to keep it moving along and edit as I go. We'll explore, what this type of insurance, property casualty insurance, covers, how it works, especially here in Nebraska. Every state has their own insurance laws, so I'm licensed for the state of Nebraska, so I can really only speak to Nebraska for the most part. And yes, I work for State Farm, but I'm trying to keep this as broad as possible for all insurance companies in Nebraska. Talk a little bit about what you should consider when you're looking for insurance and how to protect your assets. So let's get started. And we're going to hope this thing works. Nancy, you said, oh, well, there we go. Tonight's topics. Okay. Lights, camera, action. So here's a quick overview of what we're going to look at this evening. First, we'll define what is property and casualty insurance, because you probably don't call it that in your everyday speak. We'll look at the types of coverage available in Nebraska, followed by a review of the state's regulatory and market environments. We'll also spend a good chunk of time discussing what the heck is going on with weather claims in Nebraska. Finally, we'll share some perspectives and practical tips for choosing the right insurance. Then we'll open it up for questions at the end. So please feel free, and as we're going along with those handouts that you got when you came in, they should mirror the slides, but I do apologize, there's 2 of them that don't match. Made some corrections to the slides, but forgot to get it into the handouts, so hopefully that won't mess anybody up too much. All right, so what is, forward please. There, what is property and casualty insurance? Okay, we have 2 categories here. Property insurance covers your physical assets, like your home, your car, maybe your business property, if you own a business, okay? Casualty insurance covers the liability exposures for things like injuries or damages to others, okay? And together, these protect individuals and businesses, organizations, from loss. Okay. There's other kinds of insurance out there, life and health, for example, another big part of our business. Not for tonight. Maybe that's August. I don't know. There are other things that that we can do, but this is what we're going to focus on tonight, and it's probably the kind that most people think of. It's what we see the most commercials for, right? Watch a football game. How many insurance commercials do we see, or a basketball game? Yeah, a lot of that going on. So let's talk about. Oh, there we go. All right. Why are P&C, short for property and casualty insurance, why is it important? Well, your financial security. It protects that. You work hard to save and to own a home, for example, or own a car. Thank you. I guess I have not been certified on that. So the property casualty insurance can protect your financial security. It can provide you with peace of mind in knowing that if something horrible happens in your life that destroys something of value to you or damages something of value to you, that insurance can help get you back on track, get your life back on track after you've suffered that loss. Oftentimes, or most of the time, you will see these 2 types of insurance come together. I liken it to 2 sides of a coin. Most of the policies I deal with every day have a component of property insurance and liability or casualty insurance. For example, your auto insurance policy. You've got the part that covers your vehicle. If you carry that kind of coverage, that will pay for damage, repairs, or replacement of your vehicle. The other side has the liability coverage, which takes care of that other guy or that other gal or that van full of nuns that you hit flying down the highway that you may have hurt or damaged their vehicle. So homeowners insurance, you've got the coverage for your house. You've also got coverage if your dog bites somebody, and you're held responsible in the state of Nebraska for that, FYI, okay? Additionally, some types of insurance, like auto insurance, are legally required in Nebraska. Did everybody know that? Please tell me you all knew that. Okay. We are all required by state law to have liability insurance coverage on our car if we're going to drive it on Nebraska roads. But unfortunately, Nicole and I know from experience, there's an awful lot of people out there driving around without it. They're breaking the law. And those, if they hit you, that could be an unfortunate situation. So other types of insurance might be required by lenders. You have a mortgage on a loan, or mortgage on your home, they're going to require you to have property coverage on your home. If you are renting an apartment or home, your landlord may require you to have liability coverage in case you cause damage to that apartment or home, maybe by leaving a candle burning unattended or starting a little kitchen fire or flushing something unfortunate that didn't go down, okay? Oh, good, I'm trusted with it again. Okay, so let's I'm sorry, I keep pointing at the screen. That doesn't do any good. I got to point back there. So let's look at common types of property insurance. Homeowners insurance covers your house, what we call in the biz the dwelling, and your personal property, sometimes referred to as contents, but can be covered typically anywhere in the world, whether they're in your house, in a storage unit, maybe in the trunk of your car, maybe in your suitcases on a cruise ship. Okay, so renter's insurance protects your belongings if you rent a home or apartment or otherwise live somewhere that you're not the owner of the residence property. Why would I make that distinction? Well, some folks we know own a house that their kid lives in. The kid doesn't pay any rent, but they're just living there with some friends while they're going to college. It's still a renter's situation, and that can use renter's insurance so that if there's a fire in that house and all this, I don't know, his Xbox and his big screen TV and all his clothes and college textbooks all get burnt. Although they don't do textbooks now, do they? It's all electronic. Anyway, that electronic thing. If all that burns up, then they've got coverage to help replace those damaged and destroyed items under that renter's insurance. Okay? And contrary to popular belief, the property owner's insurance does not cover your stuff. Okay? So if anybody has a kid or a grandkid, maybe venturing out into the world, starting adulting, renting their own place, living out on their own, talk to me about renter's insurance so I could give you some information about that you might want to pass along to them that might be helpful as they start arranging that. Auto insurance can help pay for repairs or for replacement of your vehicle if it's damaged or destroyed. And commercial property insurance covers buildings and equipment for businesses. Because Nebraska is an agricultural region, obviously, flood and crop insurance are also important for many residents, farmers, and ranchers. Okay? I don't deal in any crop insurance, so that's kind of outside my purview. All right. So, major types of casualty insurance. Now we're flipping over to that other side, that liability side of the coin. Auto insurance shows up again here. This is that liability side because it's required in almost every state. There's one state that's an exception. Anybody know which it is? In New Hampshire, you do not have to purchase an auto liability insurance policy. You could, as long as you could prove you have enough money in the bank to take care of paying for the injured parties, their bodily injury or their property damage, you just have to, I don't know, show your bank statement, I guess, to the cop. I'm not sure how that works, but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. All other states and the District of Columbia mandate minimum bodily injury and property damage liability coverage to protect against costs from accidents that the insured driver causes. Okay? Personal and commercial liability insurance protects you if you're sued for causing injury or damage not related to an auto accident. An example would be if your dog bites someone, I mentioned that earlier, or if someone slips and falls on a wet floor at your place of business. Okay? Workers' compensation insurance provides benefits to employees who are injured or made sick on the job, even if the cause was due to the business owner's actions or neglect or negligence. And umbrella policies add extra liability coverage beyond the standard limits on these other types of policies. And we're going to get into more detail on that down the road. So, what is a liability umbrella? Why would you need something called a liability umbrella? Let's take a look at a few personal liability scenarios. While driving, you change lanes and cause an accident, which results in multiple injuries to passengers of another vehicle in addition to their damaged vehicle. While cooking, you leave your stove unattended and a conflagration ensues. In addition to burning down your house, the fire also damages your neighbor's home and injures some of your neighbors that were home at the time. As a result, you may have to pay for any repairs to your neighbor's home in addition to any medical costs related to their injuries. While your teenager is out tootling around on your ATV, they lose control, driving through your neighbor's fence, over their prize-winning roses, and into their covered in-ground pool. Ouch. While operating your boat, Mr. Smith, you hit a water skier and cause serious injury. Ooh. You give a fella permission to hunt on your farmland, and he falls in an old well that you didn't have marked or covered, resulting in him being permanently disabled from his injuries. Now you're responsible for the cost of his medical care, lost wages, and pain and suffering. a stair railing in your rental house is loose, resulting in your tenant falling down the stairs and breaking her leg. Okay. As you can imagine, in any one of these scenarios, your financial exposure could be substantial. Would you want to have to sell your house or liquidate other assets in order to pay a settlement or a jury award? I know I wouldn't. A personal liability umbrella kicks in when the liability limits of your underlying policies, think your auto policy, your homeowner's policy, your renter's policy, etc., are exhausted, covering large legal fees, medical bills, and damages that could otherwise wipe out your savings or future earnings. A liability umbrella comes in amounts starting at $1 million and can be increased in $1 million increments, and it's at a relatively low cost. How many of you have a liability umbrella policy? Okay. Oftentimes I meet folks or talk to them on the phone who have liability umbrella policies, but they're not even sure why or what it does for them. So, and then plenty of other people say, well, yeah, I've heard of that. What is that? Do I need one of those? It's kind of a mystery topic, you know, when you get into nerdy insurance discussions, I hope that you feel like you've learned a little bit more about it. And when you get to the end, if you have more questions about that, that's a great topic. I'd be happy to answer those for you. All right, moving on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Nebraska Department of Insurance. What does it do? Each state has its own Department of Insurance. So this is regulated at the state level, not the federal level. The Nebraska DOI plays a key role in overseeing the insurance market. It licenses insurance companies that do business in Nebraska, agencies, and agents. We have to take tests every 2 years, take classes, continuing ed, to keep those licenses up. To get the license initially, got to pass big tests. So it's an ongoing thing to keep that certification up, or that licensure up. The DOI ensures that insurers remain financially solvent. They're selling policies, but they don't have the money and reserves to pay the claims when the storms come or the accidents happen. That's going to be a problem. So they have a very vested interest in the financial stability and solvency of these insurance carriers. And they approve insurance rates and policy forms before they can, in order for them to be sold in the state. Now, you may not have ever given the Nebraska Department of Insurance much thought, but in a little while, we're going to talk about one particular state's DOI that has gotten a lot of folks' attention in the last few years. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some specific insurance laws in Nebraska. I know this is gripping stuff. Insurance law, you never thought you'd get such an exciting little smorgasbord of info. All right, in Nebraska, state law requires drivers to carry minimum auto body, that's a different thing altogether. Minimum auto, bodily injury, and property damage liability coverages. Okay, so in Nebraska, does anybody know what those minimum requirements are besides Nicole? Anybody want to take a guess? What's the bare minimum you could get by and still be street legal? For bodily injury per person, how much do you have to have? Thank you, Steve. $25,000 to pay for the medical bills of one injured person. What's the cap per accident for bodily injury if there's multiple people injured? $50,000, so double that. So if 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people are hurt, carrying the minimums, $50,000 is what's there to pay their bills. And what about the property damage liability? So that's going to pay for the car or the cars or the mailbox or the light pole or the front porch or whatever you might have hit. Anyone?
75.
No, wouldn't that be great? How much? 25,000, yes. So you will often see this written out. I should have got a whiteboard or an easel. 25/50/25. $25,000 per person for bodily injury coverage, up to $50,000 maximum for the accident, and the $25,000 for property damage liability. Bare minimum, okay? Many states have that same requirement, I discovered. I got me a handy dandy little chart. Right off the bat, at the top, Alabama, first one in the alphabetic list, 25, 50, 25. Okay, they're similar to Nebraska. And as I read through the list, quite a few have those same numbers. But then I was curious, so I started doing a little more digging. Hawaii. Well, let's back before I even go there. So think about this. Let's say you hit a car. Oh, for crying out loud. Sorry. Okay, so you hit a car and injure somebody. Let's say they are seriously injured and they have to go to the emergency room. If you've ever been aware, known someone personally, or heard of someone who's been seriously injured in an auto accident who has to go to the emergency room, and then perhaps into surgery, maybe even have to stay in the ICU for a time, and then maybe regular stay, and then into a rehab hospital, and then maybe ongoing outpatient rehab, and then they're missing work all this time, so they're not getting a paycheck, so there's lost wages right there. Do you think $25,000 is going to go very far? No. And the $50,000, if there was a couple, 2 or 3 people in that car that all got walloped pretty bad? Okay. And if, I don't know, not many new cars out there you can get for $25,000. And if it's a 3-car pileup or 4-car pileup, yeah, whew, okay. So what the kind of the point I'm getting at here is 25, 50, 25 is pretty bare bones. Yes, you're street legal, but does it protect your assets? No, it really doesn't. So yeah, definitely think about those limits if you or someone you know or love. You know, maybe you have grandkids that going out and getting their first insurance on their own. And maybe that's all they can afford. But boy, let's be encouraging them to think about what that means and how they would come up with that money to pay off that settlement or that judgment. Okay, so I went looking, other states. Hawaii. Bodily injury liability per person, $20,000, up to $40,000 per accident, and for property damage, $10,000. So imagine you're driving in Hawaii. Okay, maybe you flew over there, and you rented a car. Most insurance companies will extend their coverage from your policy to that rental car while you're on vacation. The coverage you have on your policy, sure, yeah, you'll be doing fine if you cause the accident and you've got great liability coverage on your policy. That's great. But let's think about the person who's the Hawaii native driving and they hit you, and they're living on the edge with state minimum liability coverage, and maybe you've been hurt, maybe your spouse has been hurt, maybe the kids, the rental car you're driving has been just trashed. $20,000 for one person's injuries, $40,000 to take care of all of you, and $10,000 for the damage to the car. That's cutting it pretty close, right? Pennsylvania and California, $15,000 per person to $30,000 per accident. And for property damage, $5,000. That's all they require. Think about that. What if you have some family that lives in Pennsylvania or California? Think about them, and if they were just out driving around being perfectly safe, but one of their co-citizens of that state hits them, injures them, or trashes their car, and they're just carrying bare state minimum requirements, wow. Gives one pause, does it not? Okay. Many states, Nebraska included, does require us to carry coverage that will take care or address bodily injury loss if the person who caused the accident either doesn't have insurance or doesn't have enough, maybe they're just carrying state minimums, referred to as uninsured and underinsured motor vehicle coverage. There's bodily injury for that, minimum state requirements, $25.50. Again, probably not enough, but at least we have some coverage that if that happens to us and that an underinsured driver hits us, we have some more coverage there that we can tap into in claim situations to help make up that if we're left cut short. But there's an awful lot of states on this list. They don't have any of that. Nothing. A few states do have property damage coverage for un- and underinsured vehicles, but not Nebraska. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get help with that from the at-fault driver, or from the uninsured driver coverage. Excuse me. So, oh, for God's sake. I'll have this at the end. If you vacation in certain states, or you're planning vacations in certain states, or you have family or loved ones in other states, and you're just kind of curious what's going on in those other states, you're welcome to take a look at this, or I can email it to you. That will eventually shut up. Okay, so Nebraska doesn't mandate property insurance. Okay, however, there are state regulations focusing on insurer conduct, claim handling, and specific property rules like. So this is Nebraska state statutes. The valued policy law mandates that if a property is totally destroyed by fire, wind, etc., the policy's dwelling coverage, remember that's the house on a homeowner's policy, the coverage limit on that is considered the true value and loss amount. So what you have your home insured for, by law, the insurance company has to say, they're not going to go and try to figure out how many 2x4s were there from the, after the house is burned down. What you have it covered for, they will consider the total value of the home, and that your claim payment should be based on that. That is in Nebraska law. The matching rule requires insurers to replace damaged siding or roofing with materials that create a reasonably uniform appearance, preventing mismatched sections. This is a topic that we do come across on a fairly common, frequent basis when folks have had a bad hailstorm hit them and it's damaged their siding and their roof, but not all of it. Maybe one or two sides of the house or one or two slopes of the roof are all that are damaged. This matching concept, this matching rule can come into play. Insurers must start investigations within 15 days of notification of a loss and provide written acceptance, denial, or reasons for delays within 15 days of proof of loss. Okay, so if you've filed a claim and presented evidence of what your loss was to your insurance company, they can't just sit on it for 3 months. They've got to get back to you within 15 days. Let you either know it was approved, let it was not denied, or say, this is the reason we don't have an answer for you yet. Okay? You have rights. And the deductible rebate prohibition law, deductible rebate, think about that, prohibition law states contractors cannot offer to pay or discount your deductible. That's a violation of state law and equals insurance fraud. We've heard of roofers who will say, oh, that's what the insurance company is going to pay you for your new roof? Okay, and then I'll just waive your deductible so you won't have to have any skin in the game. I won't have to get any more money from you. We'll just take just what the insurance company's paying. It's insurance fraud. It's illegal. So, tells you something about the integrity of that particular roofing contractor if they participate in that sort of activity. And the last law I want to talk about is minor misstatements in policy applications don't void coverage unless they were intentionally deceptive and harmed the insurer. So if you outright lie on an application, say, oh yeah, my roof is only 1 year old, and or oh gosh, yeah, I've never had a sewer backup claim ever at my house. I didn't have that last year. And then as a result, that because that didn't get taken care of, and then there's a claim, and the insurer had to pay a claim that they might have otherwise said, maybe we wouldn't write that homeowner's insurance policy. Those types of things are not permitted. But if you just accidentally say, oh yeah, I thought my HVAC was 10 years old and it was 11 years old, it's a minor misstatement, would not harm the insurer. Okay. But rates and policy forms from the insurance company must be filed with and approved by the Department of Insurance to ensure they're fair and not misleading. So insurance companies cannot write policies that are written at these, super high legal eagle language that no one can understand. They have to be clear and understandable. Now, in Nebraska, as in most states, property insurance rates and forms generally follow a file and use system. Meaning insurers file the rates and forms electronically, of course, as everything is nowadays, with the Department of Insurance, and they can use them immediately, unless, there's a few exceptions, but the DOI then reviews them for compliance after the fact. So basically, insurance companies say, here's the new, we're raising our rates, we're changing these things in the policy, there you go, state, boom, they can start using them. They don't have to wait to get approved. That's 38 states, I believe, do it that way. Other states have to get those things approved first. Just briefly, I was surprised to know there are 53 property and casualty companies doing business in Nebraska as of 2023, the last year that numbers were available. Wow, that's a lot. Some bigger than others. You know, we've got the State Farm, the Farmers, the Allstate, the Farm Bureau, the Nationwide, the Progressive, the auto owners, all the ones that have the great commercials. You know, we've got those here. And, you know, those are the big national companies, and there's some regional insurers that focus specifically on Nebraska and surrounding states, often with tailored products for local needs, like crop insurance, for example. Okay, so let's dig down a little deeper now. How many of you have a homeowner's insurance policy? Okay. Many of you, okay. Now, that group, how many of you have had sticker shock upon receiving a renewal statement for that policy in the last few years? My husband's got both hands. Okay, it's a thing. Well, I wish I had a dime for every time I've been asked, why is my homeowner's insurance premium so high? So what is going on with this? Okay, looking back the last 4 to 5 years or so, maybe longer, Nebraska's insurance loss ratios, and that just means the companies, what they pay out in claims divided by what they're taking in premiums. Okay, you want that number to be less than 1. When it's over 1, you lose the money, right? Okay, so the loss ratios in Nebraska have been extremely high, particularly for home insurers. This is being driven by more and more frequent and severe convective storms. Now, a severe convective storm, it's just a powerful thunderstorm formed by moist, warm air that rises, producing damaging phenomena like tornadoes, hail greater than an inch in diameter, or winds over 58 miles per hour. Okay? We've had our fair share of this junk, right? The property losses caused by these storms have resulted in making Nebraska's loss ratios the highest in the nation. Nebraska's loss ratios are the highest in the nation. Think about that. Little old Nebraska, the good life, not hurting anybody here in the middle of the country. We don't have oceans beating on us. We don't have forest fires, but we've got these storms. Okay? Property losses have caused massive underwriting challenges for every insurance company doing business in Nebraska, in particular, and in the Plain States in general, with some insurers taking massive rate hikes to close the gap, hence those shocking homeowners renewal letters that so many of us have gotten. But raising premiums is not the only tool in the insurer's toolbox. Some other measures we're commonly seeing now, both within our own company that I work for and other folks bringing in their insurance information from other companies. So we see this happening a lot, and just reading industry news. Minimum wind and hail deductibles. This is a thing now. Where back in the day, remember the day you could have a $500 deductible on your homeowner's policy? Or even $1,000. Those have been going the way of the dodo. We've seen higher and higher flat, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000. And now the latest thing is the percentage deductible. And many times it's just specifically required for wind or hail losses. A percentage of what? Well, you take a look at how much coverage is on the dwelling, the house. Let's say it's a $500,000 house. Let's make the math easy, okay? $500,000 dwelling coverage. If you have a 1% deductible, move that decimal over 2 places, your deductible for wind or hail losses would be $5,000. If you have a 2% deductible requirement for wind and hail, you'd have a $10,000 deductible that would apply to that wind or hail loss. Okay, so this is happening. This is one tool that insurance companies are pulling out of their toolbox to help manage this situation in Nebraska with these severe storms and all the losses they cause. Reduced coverage on roof surfaces, especially older roofs. As roofs live on our houses in this part of the country, they're getting damaged up there. Yeah, even if you haven't had a claim, you haven't had it replaced, all these storms that have been coming through, they're doing some stuff to your roof. And insurers recognize that over time, as those roofs are getting older, they have been compromised by that wind, by that hail, like continued wear and tear. And that roof is really your first line of defense to protect the rest of your house. So they're looking at maybe reducing the coverage, depreciating that roof before reaching that loss settlement figure with you. Maybe not even cover, I'm sorry, Matt. Feel like you're in the nursery? But you may see some things like a roof surfaces payment schedule. You get a chart that says, well, my roof is 11 years old, so insurance company, I go over to that column and they're going to pay maybe 45% of my roof. But if it's 3 years old, they're going to pay 75% of my roof. So the older it gets, that coverage may be reduced. So we're seeing a number of carriers implementing something like this. Stricter underwriting of renewal policies, especially regarding the age and condition of the roofs, or just flat out not writing certain kinds of roofs. Wood shake shingles are not looked upon fondly in the insurance business. 3-tab shingles, not looked upon fondly. So there might be some roofs that insurance companies are just saying, sorry, we can't insure that home with that type of roof on it because of the potential and that exposure. It's a more unappealing risk for the insurance company. Non-renewal of policies, some of these policies have experienced multiple losses, or there may be a higher risk property with large, heavy tree branches hanging over the roof, and the insurance company has said, okay, you need to either remove that tree or cut those branches down, and the homeowner may have just said, nope, didn't do it, didn't spend the money, whatever, so the insurance company has no choice but to say, I'm sorry, we cannot insure your home anymore. This happens. So remember when we talked about the Nebraska Department of Insurance a little while ago, and I mentioned that there's one state's DOI that's gotten some attention. California has been hit by many devastating wildfires in the past several years, resulting in billions and billions of dollars of property damage. For example, the Palisades and Eaton fires in Los Angeles just a year ago, we're hearing anniversary talk on the radio about it, just being last year at this time, resulted in an estimate, and this has kind of got a range of how much this insurance industry losses in the range, depending on the source, of $25.2 billion to maybe $39.4 billion. And it just keeps growing. The claims just keep rolling in. It's just mind-blowing. So as a result of the increasingly frequent and severe fires, insurance companies in California have had to make some hard decisions about how and if to continue to do business in that state. When carriers have asked the California Department of Insurance to approve premium increases that the insurers believe they need to implement to remain solvent, their requests have been denied, leading some insurance companies to scale back, if not completely withdraw, their presence in California by ceasing to sell new policies and non-renewing existing policies in high-risk areas. As you can imagine, this creates some significant challenges for homeowners in wildfire-prone areas, leaving them without many options to protect their home. So this brings me back to the measures I outlined moments ago that insurance companies here in Nebraska, right up there on the screens, are taking, to try to, manage this in our state so that we don't end up in a California situation here where carriers start pulling out of the state and we're left without options to protect our homes. So we need to be glad that insurance companies are maybe tightening things up a little bit and really watching their underwriting and their premiums and everything so that we will continue to have choices of how we protect our homes and what's important to us. Just last November, just a couple months ago, I heard a great story on NPR's Morning Edition called Why Home Insurance is Unaffordable Even in Places Without Wildfires or Hurricanes. That was the title of the piece. The entire piece focused on homeowners in Cozad, Nebraska. National radio, they're in Cozad talking to folks. You can read the transcript online. Just go to www.npr.org and click the search bar at the top of the screen, type why home insurance is unaffordable, hit enter, and this story will come up at the top. It has got some just amazing, phenomenal photos, views, the stuff that's happened there that just is mind-blowing. From the damage from the storms there. There's some really helpful and informative infographics. It's a great piece that I suggest you've got it there in your handouts, how you can search for that. I found it fascinating, but then again, I am an insurance nerd, so like, oh, they're talking about insurance. All right, wrapping up. Oh, look at the time. I'm almost there. All right. Natural disasters and risk mitigation or risk management. We've often heard the expression that Nebraska is in Tornado Alley, right? We've heard that mentioned, I'm sure, at some point in our lives. But it's not just tornadic winds that cause devastating damage. High gusting straight winds have also been a major concern in this part of the country, as witnessed by all the downed trees and branches we've experienced lately, right? Those neighborhoods you try to drive through, they look like they've been bombed. Okay, that's some serious stuff going on there. How many of us have saved a great big hailstone in our freezer at some point? The last 10, 15 years, right? We've gotten some mothers of hailstorms that have really come down. Flooding is also a risk, especially near rivers and low-lying areas. Now, I could spend an hour talking about flooding, flood mitigation, flood insurance. We'll leave that for another night. That is a whole nother ball of wax. So, hope you don't, come see me afterwards if you want more information about flood insurance. Now, when you think of disaster preparedness, some activities that might come to mind are making a plan, identifying evacuation routes, planning for pets, and building an emergency kit with water, food, tools, hygiene supplies, and medications. Seems reasonable, right? But these days, if you ask me about disaster preparedness, I'm likely to want to talk to you about shingles. More specifically, impact-resistant, or IR shingles. IR shingles offer superior protection against hail, wind, and debris, leading to longer roof life, fewer repairs, sizable insurance discounts, and increased property value, and greater peace of mind by preventing the cracks and leaks that are common with standard shingles. They're made with flexible polymers for enhanced durability and can last significantly longer, making them a smart long-term investment, particularly in storm-prone areas like Nebraska. So I get no financial kickbacks for selling shingles, but I just want to put it out there for you to think about. Make a note of it, circle it, write it down. Next time you're getting a new roof, look at impact-resistant shingles. You'll thank me, trust me. So when, not if, the next severe storm rolls through Lincoln, having impact-resistant shingles can help you avoid a roof replacement, saving you money in the form of your homeowner's insurance deductible, which we said a little while ago, they're going up, right? All right, see, it all ties together. All right, so let's move into figuring out what you need for insurance, okay? Before purchasing insurance, carefully assess your needs. Consider the value of your home, vehicles, and personal or business property. Identify potential liability risks, such as owning a swimming pool or hiring employees. Also factor in Nebraska-specific risks, like hail or wind exposures, to choose appropriate coverage. This is where having a local insurance professional you can talk to can be extremely beneficial. So, when you're shopping for insurance, don't settle for the first quote or ones that just match your current coverages. Compare multiple quotes from different companies. Check insurers' financial strength ratings from agencies like AM Best, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's to ensure that when the time comes, they'll have the money to pay the claims. Imagine how important that could be. Bundling policies, boy, that's a buzzword, isn't it? All over the commercials, bundling saves money. Insurers recognize that there's value to having you have multiple policies with them, and so that comes back to you in the form of discounts. And lastly, consider the company's reputation for customer service and claims handling. What are you hearing at the water cooler? Or down at the club, or wherever, at the game, people talking, they had a claim. What are you hearing? What are people saying about their insurance company? How did their claim go? Or they had, if they had a question or a problem, what kind of service did they get? And their business model, do you have to call an 800 number or go online to a website to get help? Or can you sit down with a real live person? So it's important when you're purchasing or even just renewing a policy that you understand what you have. It's crucial to read the fine print and ask questions. Do we love questions, Nicole? We love questions. It's not a bother that when somebody calls and has a question or comes to an office and has a question, and I'm sure any insurance producer out there would say the same thing. Questions are great. It gives us a chance to talk about the nerdy stuff that we love to do. Policies often exclude certain risks like sewer backup or earthquake damage. You may need endorsements or so you may need a separate policy to cover these types of things that are excluded in a base policy. Be aware of limitations to your coverage. For example, your policy may require you to maintain the heat of at least a certain temperature in your home or business during cold weather to prevent freezing pipes. Otherwise, your claim for water damage from a burst pipe could be denied. Review your policy annually, so when you get those renewals, don't just stick it away or just pay it, just look at it for changes the insurer may have made. Maybe they're implementing a wind-hail deductible, right? That could be in there. And then ensure that that policy is still meeting your needs, especially if you've made improvements. Maybe you just added on a man cave on the back of your house. All right, put another story up above. Finished a basement that was previously unfinished. These are important things for your insurance company to know to make sure that your policy is keeping up with your needs. Or your circumstances have changed. You've gotten married, got divorced, had a baby. There's all sorts of things. Got a new fancy piece of jewelry entered the family at Christmas time. Well, these are things that we definitely want to talk about. All right, so just to kind of wrap up, property casualty insurance is essential for protecting your assets and managing liability risks. Nebraska's unique weather and economic profile mean you should tailor your coverage accordingly. And know the state regulations, shop carefully, and keep your policies up to date. I really do want to thank all of you for coming. You've been a great audience. I hope you found that this was valuable and a good use of your time. And I'm happy to take any questions now that you might have. She's got a microphone so everybody can hear it.
I have a question on the liability insurance, the 25, 50, and 25.
Okay.
Okay. Is it just the insurance company or the state that requires, if you want an umbrella policy, that it has to be a higher amount?
Fantastic question, thank you. Okay, so what she's asking about is, okay, the state only requires the 25, 50, 25 that we talked about exhaustively, but you might have say $1 million or $2 million umbrella. Okay, your insurance company is going to require that you carry higher liability limits on your underlying policies, on your homeowners, on your auto insurance. So, for example, State Farm, and these numbers are fairly common. I see many other companies use similar numbers. In order to have a State Farm umbrella, your auto insurance liability limits must be at least $250,000 per person, up to $500,000 per accident for bodily injury, and $100,000 for property damage. Okay, so that auto policy is the first line of defense. That's the first money that's going to be used to take care of the injured parties or damaged parties. And then if those are tapped out, then that next dollar coverage comes from the umbrella. Okay, some companies will have what's called a self-insured retention, where there's maybe a little gap of, say, $1,000 between the two. Sometimes you see that. But yes, that was a great question. You can't just carry the state minimums and then expect to have your insurance company put $1 million or $2 million above that. You have some obligation to bring that up, but then that umbrella will kick in. But that's a great question. Who else?
If my neighbor's tree falls on my roof and damages my roof, does my insurance company pay or does my neighbors pay?
Thank you for asking that question. I bet we get that question, oh gosh, on average 20 times a year, at least. And that is a fantastic question because it doesn't seem fair, but a falling tree is generally, in most cases, considered an act of God. Regardless if it was your tree or your neighbor's tree and it falls on your house, your homeowner's insurance policy should take care of that. Your neighbor cannot be held liable for an act of God. I'm going to give you kind of a caveat to that, but in most cases, your neighbor could not have prevented that tree or did not cause that tree to fall on your house. Just as if a tornado picked up a tree from the park down the street and launched it through the air and it landed on your house, your homeowner's insurance coverage would kick in and take care of, the cost of repairs. Now, Is there a scenario? There absolutely is a scenario where your neighbor might be held responsible and their homeowner's policy should take care of your damages. Let's say it's a big dead tree. You know it's a dead tree. They know it's a dead tree. They've told you, oh yeah, I'm getting that tree removed. I'm getting it cut down because I know it's dead. And you've had conversations about it. And when you talked about it with them, you went back home and you wrote it down. On December 15th, 2024, Ed said that he's getting the tree taken down because he knows it's dead. Okay? There's documentation. Maybe you have text messages with Ed. Yeah, when are you getting that tree cut down? Oh yeah, any day now. And then the tree falls down on your house. You could make a pretty strong liability case that Ed could have and should have prevented that tree from falling on your home, and therefore filing a liability claim against his homeowner's insurance policy has a pretty good chance of being successful.
If my pipes, water pipes freeze, is that an exclusion?
Great question. Most policies will, as long as you are maintaining heat in your property, okay, keeping the furnace going, doing reasonable things like that. If a pipe freezes and bursts and causes damage to your home, the resulting damage should be covered, subject to your deductible, of course, to take care of, maybe it's the flooring, maybe it's the basement ceiling, maybe it's the carpet in the basement, drywall, any of that stuff, the resulting damage. The burst pipe, nope, that's home maintenance, that's your plumber bill. It's not going to cover that in most cases. But if you go away to Arizona for the winter, and you crank your heat down to 50 degrees, and a pipe bursts, chances are your claim will be denied because you did not maintain adequate heat to prevent that. If you have a vacant home, maybe you've bought a new home, you've moved into the new one, your old one's on the market, trying to get it sold, and you're trying to save money because you've got 2 mortgages and homeowners insurance and property taxes on 2 homes, so I'm just going to keep the heat turned as low as possible, and it's too low, and a pipe bursts in that vacant house, you may not have coverage. So keep it warm enough so the pipes don't freeze. Is the moral of that story.
And so how warm?
Most policies will say, what's ours, like 55 degrees? Which, that's cold. You wouldn't want to live in it at 55 degrees, but 55 should keep the pipes from freezing. Yeah, you'd want to check your policy. Every company's policy could be different. Or call your insurance agent and ask them.
Other questions for Julie?
Great questions so far, for sure. And if you're shy, I've got my cards here, so you're welcome to call me or email me if I can answer any questions at all for you later on.
Julie, you were talking about impact-resistant shingles. Now, are there other improvements that people can make? Like, could they put on fiber cement siding? Or could they, I've read about hurricane-proof windows or something. Not that we would necessarily, I've never seen them advertised in Nebraska.
I haven't either, but
I'm not sure how you could the rest of the house is flat and the window's still standing. I don't know what's the point? But I did want to ask about the fiber cement siding, and I don't know if there's a different type of window that would also be better.
Yeah, windows, I don't have haven't really heard much in that arena. I do know, siding is one area where there are definitely siding there are types of exterior cover that will definitely weather storms better. Brick and stone, for example, probably going to be fine when the big hail comes. Your hardy board, your cement fiber siding, you may need some paint touch up, but generally that will hold up quite well in the storms around here. Not the worst ones. They may get some cracks and things like that. The vinyl siding, it's going to look like Swiss cheese after a big, strong hailstorm. If you go to that NPR article, you'll see a picture that's like, oh, Lordy, it looks like lace after the hail hit it. So yeah, now, are these things that are, in this current market, are they going to get you any discounts or things like that? No, we do have a better rate for homes that are majority, like brick veneer, masonry veneer, with the brick or stone on the outside. If there's more than 50% of that, there's a better price point for the policy. I can't speak for other insurance companies in that regard. Commercial policies have a lot of classifications in that regard and rates for those. Windows, though, I mean, I don't know anybody selling like hurricane-rated windows in Nebraska. I don't know that there's much of a market for it here, but some hail-resistant windows wouldn't be the worst idea. Where we really see a lot of damage is the cladding, the vinyl cladding on the frames around those. They'll get dimpled. Some companies, window companies, will repair or just replace the cladding. Some other companies, that shall remain nameless, refuse to repair their windows and require that the whole window be replaced, which of course generates a lot of income for those window companies.
Well, we did put on impact-resistant shingles, and that really made a difference for us for our homeowners policy. But I wasn't sure about any difference if you did something with better siding, other than, you know, brick or stone. Mm-hmm. And, or
yeah, I like for State Farm, I know we don't change it, we don't have a discount for it.
It's not a question, but a comment. I got the shingles with the higher rating, paid the difference, and my insurance went up.
Well, I'm sorry, does your insurance company know that you got those shingles installed?
He's the one that recommended it.
Okay, and did he follow through, make sure that the discount got added to your policy?
Well, he says if I got the discount.
Okay, check your policy declarations and make him show you.
It doesn't specifically state on it.
Okay, you might want to check on that. The other thing is, keep in mind, that's one factor. There are many other factors. Many times adding that big discount, all it can do is offset some of that other stuff that I talked about that's driving our rates up. All these severe convective storms, things like that, having claims, you know, there are a number of factors that could be offsetting that savings, whereas, you know, it could be a whole lot worse if you didn't have the discount. But I would seriously ask them, walk in and say, show me where I've got this discount for my roof.
He said, oh, you got it.
He what?
He says, you got the discount.
Just told you over the phone?
Huh?
Oh, told you over the phone?
No.
Oh, in person? They could show it to you in writing?
Well, I've got a copy of it. But
Okay.
it doesn't break anything
Yeah,
down.
so I'd ask him.
Because I have multiple policies there, and I have other things
Yeah.
that are all into one.
Big bundle package. Well, I mean, and they should be willing to have a conversation with you. Okay, yeah, I got this, what should have been a really nice big discount. I was surprised to see my rates went up. Can you talk to me about that? What's going on? Why? Make them give you some explanation. That's their job. Be demanding. What else? Anything else? Sorry, I know this went longer than it was supposed to. I promised Dan I'd get him home by 8. I have a few little handouts that if you are interested, I'm going to make you come up here and get them. That way I can meet you. One, it's particularly for this time of year, some, are you prepared? For what? Right? I mean, but in case that Mother Nature does finally bring winter, there's some handy tips here and some information about ice dams. Ice dams, another geeky term, or construction term. What is an ice dam and how do you prevent it? It has to do with when the snow on your roof. What snow? The snow on your roof starts to melt, and that water kind of starts to come down underneath, and then it freezes. And then the stuff up above it that's trying to melt can't go anywhere, but then it goes under and into your roof and into your house, and it's a mess. So this can talk to you about that. Having really good insulation is key. And then here's something about preventing water damage in your home. I have a few of these that, you know, nobody wants to get up in the morning and find water standing or walk down to their basement and go squish. No, nobody wants that. And like I said, if anybody knows somebody that might wonder about renter's insurance, or you want to introduce them to the concept of renter's insurance, I've got some just little information that might be helpful. And my cards, if you want to reach out to me, or if you want to look up any states' auto liability limits, let me know. I'll shut up now.
Well, thanks so much, Julie. That was very informative. We're so glad to have you here with us tonight. Please join me in thanking Julie for her excellent presentation.
If I'd really thought about it, I wouldn't have volunteered to go first this year. It's been kind of a busy couple of months, but now I can say it's behind me.
That wedding's behind you now.
The wedding reception, Christmas, New Year's, all of that, yeah. Don't talk to me about Lent. Don't even. I'm celebrating Epiphany this week.
Right, happy Epiphany.
It's Three Kings Day today.
Yes.
The Dia de los Tres Reyes. All right, go home. Or come see me.